following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Handoff, Elliott plowing to the goal line. Buried, sacked by Lord. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
Now, your hosts, Mickey Spagnola, Rob Phillips, Everson Walls, and Bill Jones.
Well, Rob Phillips, you may have seen him just walk in just in the nick of time. We've got a new coach. They are, and Rob Phillips walks in like he doesn't care that there's a new regime here. That
there's a lot of things happening around here.
You might get fined right off the bat here by the new coach.
He's not a one-trick pony. He's got other things to do, guys. That's what
right.
you have to understand.
But
about Rob.
I apologize to Everson because you do not like tardiness.
Oh, I do not.
You were not
I
tardy,
do not, sir.
Rob. You were not tardy. You were right on time. And wow, do we have a lot to talk about on this edition of Talking Cowboys?
Yeah.
We're down. We're back to the off-season mode of one show a week, and so Tuesday at 11 a.m. is going to be our time slot.
Nice.
Everyone's good with that, right?
I'm good.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
You know, my Tuesdays are really very busy, but
Yes.
I can put some time aside. Yes.
There you go. It was a busy weekend for some people here at the Star, and so I guess we just start. Where would you like to start? It's not officially been announced that there's a new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm just glad it's being done. I'm glad the process has started because you guys are so thirsty, man. God, the media is so thirsty. What is happening here? It's got to happen now. I want it now. Wow.
Well, you're going to have to wait till tomorrow. I think.
On the press conference?
Yeah.
Or announcement? I'm very happy that it happened quickly because in our business.
Reportedly happened quickly.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not quick enough.
Reportedly happened quickly because in our business, they want to fill airtime with all sorts of speculation, and I didn't want some 2 or 3 week drawn out process where we're having to chase people.
Like 10, like last
10 candidates
with
last
Wade.
time.
They don't even want a 2 or 3 day process, man. You guys are demanding. Oh my goodness! I'm glad I didn't try to marry one of you guys. Woo, you guys.
Me too, actually.
Satisfaction now. What's happening?
It's the Twitter world we live in.
I guess
you
so.
know?
And in the very latest this afternoon, of course, we'll get into Mike McCarthy and what's going on here. But, I mean, this morning, Matt Rule leaves Baylor. He's going to the Carolina Panthers.
Wow.
Yes.
Nice stuff.
And on the heels of that, Joe Judge is the new head coach of the New York Giants. And all of a sudden, and it starts with the reports of Mike McCarthy becoming the Cowboys head coach, follows up with Carolina and the Giants, and all of a sudden the only job out there is Cleveland now.
And that may stay out there for a while.
So I thought I had just read where Matt Rule was staying at Baylor.
Well, that's what leading up to his game against Georgia. That was what we said. He was saying that he would. He had told his team, I'll entertain. If someone offers you, I think as he put it, $14 million to go talk someplace, then wouldn't you do that? And as it turns out, have you seen the money?
I saw 5 years.
No,
7 years, $60 million.
Yes.
So that's not $10 million a year.
No, it's not. But
close enough.
It
It's
could go
9.
to it. It's
9
close.
points.
Sorry. It's not 10. I'm good. I'll go back to Baylor. Waco's a nice place.
So there you go.
Guys, we need to have more shows if we got all this info.
I know, all this stuff is happening.
I know, right?
A lot to digest.
All right, so let's go back to Talking Cowboys and what happened over the course of the last week and over the weekend. And let's go around the horn. And what's your reaction to what you know, Mickey?
Well, I had said all along how whoever they hired, I didn't want a head coach coming in practicing on my dime. I wanted a guy that had been a head coach and had NFL experience. And so I think that Mike McCarthy checks off those 2 boxes, and not to mention he's been pretty successful. And the thing I like about it, that if you had to get a coach who was not coaching, he hadn't been out more than a year. I worry about guys that have been out 3, 4, 5 years, and then they forget how hard it is to be a head coach, how hard you have to work to be successful as they were previously. So I think he checks those boxes. And then my question was, okay, that's fine. Now, who's your defensive coordinator? And it's sounding like it's Mike Nolan, who's been the linebackers coach at New Orleans. So if that goes through, I thought that would be his major hire. Who was going to take care of a defense that needed taken care of?
What do you think, Rob?
I agree with that. We'll see what happens with Nolan and obviously the McCarthy stuff. They've got to announce all that, but it's obviously sounds like it's heading in that direction. And I agree with what Mickey said. What I've been saying since the end of the year, if they made the decision to move on from Jason, you're going to pay Dak Prescott a ton of money coming up, whether it's on the franchise tag or a long-term deal. There's not a better candidate available that's worked with quarterbacks than Mike McCarthy. I know Lincoln Riley's out there. Bright young mind, all of that. But McCarthy's experience goes back to Joe Montana in 93, 94, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and I think he deserves credit for Aaron Rodgers' development as well as Aaron Rodgers gives credit for what Green Bay has done as a team. I think it's a really good hire. It's guys ready-made to step in and produce, and I'm honestly not surprised that this is coming together as fast as it is because, Jerry Jones didn't commit to Jason Garrett past this season. So you have to think he would have a short list of guys ready to go. And Mickey alluded to it in 2007 when they interviewed a ton of guys. Bill Parcells blindsided Jerry and said, you know what, I'm done after the 2006 season. And Jerry had to scramble and find a guy. It's pretty clear. I think he knew pretty early on who his guy wanted to be.
What do you think, Everson?
I tell you, he did not want another Parcells guy. He did not want that, and that's what he got. He got a guy that's not. He's not a Parcells guy. He's a coach with experience, successful coach. You would think that those complaints that we've had about Jason Garrett and his coaching staff, all of that would be remedied with a guy like McCarthy, who was known to be just a meticulous coach in all areas. That's a good thing. The other good thing about it is he can deal with Jerry Jones. He can let Jerry Jones do what he wants to do. McCarthy is good with just being this coach that can just handle the team. Jerry as a distraction to most head coaches. I think McCarthy has the experience to where it wouldn't bother him. I think he can work his way around that in regards to any circus atmosphere that people anticipate coming from Jerry Jones. The only thing I will say about it is the Marvin Lewis attempt, whatever you want to call that. It was Marvin.
Marvin Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting old, guys. So I want you anytime. Yep. I'm thick-skinned. You can correct me anytime you want. If that was just a typical Rooney Rule attempt, it was weak. There are some great coaches out there, African-American coaches, that if they really were serious about that, I think they could have gone so many other different ways. I thought that was just for lack of a better term, I thought that was just a token effort to get to even interview Marvin Lewis. I'm just kind of disappointed about that. However, I am happy about the McCarthy hiring, if it's official. And when it's all said and done, we're worried about the time and how long it took. Okay, guys, here we are. Okay, here we are. We got him. I think we got him. If we got him, we got him. Wow, we have so much more time in the offseason. Everyone was in a hurry to get this done. I'm glad he did it on his own terms. One of the few times I agree with Jerry in regards to procedure, they talk about him shouldn't be a GM. I kind of get that. Okay. But I thought that him taking his own sweet time was his prerogative, and I had no problem with it.
And isn't it kind of funny that everybody was criticizing him for dragging along, not doing something, and then basically he was the first one to do something, and now all the other dominoes fell after the Cowboys did McCarthy.
Which, along those lines, I think when you look at the timing of the announcement that Jason Garrett they would not pursue an extension on Garrett, which came on Sunday afternoon, and then immediately the next morning it comes out that McCarthy is the guy. I think that truly that Jerry talked with Jason throughout the week, and that He gave Jason an opportunity to state his case for keeping the job, and I truly believe that Jerry valued what Jason brought to this organization as the head coach and in all aspects of what a head coach is supposed to do. And I think that he truly felt like, and until I can interview the guy that I want, which was McCarthy, I'm not ruling out the possibility that Garrett might come back. And it wasn't until he got comfortable that Mike McCarthy was his guy. And the other part of it, now that we see these other dominoes falling, the fact that it waited a week before that decision was made, it did not cost Jason Garrett getting these other jobs, because he was not going to get the Carolina job or the Giants job. Obviously, they were going in a different direction.
I thought it was a lot of panic over nothing.
Yeah,
I really did.
right.
And I'm glad you said that, because I said that yesterday, that I don't think it was a coincidence that as soon as he officially said we're moving on from Jason, that, let's hire Mike McCarthy. I think he wanted a bird in hand before he moved on from Jason Garrett.
I thought that all last week, that he has a known commodity right here in Jason Garrett, and until he has a sit down with whoever his number one choice was, he doesn't know what that dynamic is going to be like.
Yeah, a lot of that was cries from fans and even media that
a lot of media, nationwide media,
missed the playoffs, so you get him out of here on Monday after the season.
It's almost as if Jason was stealing money from them.
Yeah, right.
Everyone was like, "Hey, get rid of him now!
Right.
I can't believe he's still. Give me a break."
Right.
I mean, for someone to be so, oh my God, so hateful to a person you don't even know.
It was incredible.
It was incredible.
And yeah, I agree with you guys. I think Jerry was and Steven, they were going to take a big picture look at this thing after the season. Think about how much he invested in Jason Garrett.
And years.
Since 2007.
Yes.
He was hired before Wade Phillips on the staff in 2007. He was kind of the chosen one. I think Jerry wanted this to be a guy here for 20 years plus, and it didn't work out. But yeah, I didn't think that he was going to make a rash decision right after the season. I think we all kind of saw the writing on the wall. Mm-hmm. But again, he's got a coach under contract until January 14th. Just kind of see where you want to go here, and ultimately they go in another direction.
And I think Jason probably last Monday when he walked in the door, he probably expected that he was going to be let go, and might have been even surprised that he still had an opportunity to lobby for the job the last week.
Yeah.
And they probably set it up with, hey, there are other openings, Giants job is open, whatever. If you want to go pursue those, go pursue those. But as Jason said in his post-game comments right after the last game, I want to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And then Jerry gave him the opportunity to
at least state his case.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as admit, Jason's got guts.
Yeah, and
I got to admit that.
The other part of that is there's a maturity about him too. I mean, because a lot of people would see the writing on the wall, be upset,
storm out the door.
And
that was never him.
Right.
That's why he was hired in the first place, because that's not in his DNA.
Right. Now, as far as McCarthy goes, and it's interesting when you look at his track record and then let go by Green Bay 13 months ago, and the way he spent the last year in preparing for his next opportunity and preparing to interview for his next opportunity. He was not away from football in the last year.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, and you guys know this, when a coach comes in for an interview, part of the question is, okay, how are you going to put your staff together? Who you got? Who's in your back pocket? Like, who's going to be your defensive coordinator? I don't think he got the job and started going, oh, okay, who's out there, right? He knew where Mike Nolan was.
And he'd worked with him before.
He worked with him in San Francisco as his offensive coordinator. And it's like he was only a linebacker coach, so I'm sure he had that planned out, and he probably had other positions planned out too. We'll see what happens once they have the official press conference, which I don't think will be any later than Wednesday.
So is
That's
there a
tomorrow.
chance? Is there a chance today?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you're calling Wednesday on it.
I'm going to call Wednesday.
The other thing on Mike Nolan is, I mean, this is a guy with 33 years experience coaching in the National Football League. 21 of those years as either a head coach or as a coordinator. I mean, he has a lot of experience as a defensive coordinator in this league. And, of course, Dick Nolan, his father, the late, great Dick Nolan, was a Cowboys defensive coordinator going back to the 60s, then became the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, and then came back to the Cowboys. And he was your position coach,
He was
wasn't
a hell of a guy. He was one of those old school guys, man. We had all kind of jokes about him, I tell you, because he was just had a great sense of humor. He forgot more football than anybody at this table or even in this building would ever know. He was extremely experienced, and he was a player's coach. He had been there before. He knew the difficulties that came along with playing for the Dallas Cowboys and that flex defense. Because he and Tom Landry, actually, if I'm not mistaken, they played together in
New York.
In New York, the Giants.
Yes, that's right.
So
he had all kind of jokes about Tom Landry.
Funny story about Dick Nolan, because I remember talking to him I just love talking to him.
Oh, he was a great guy.
He was the first Marlboro man on the big board in Times Square.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's
I once
something
saw
a lot of people do not know.
I saw a picture. A good-looking guy.
That's the product of playing for the New York Giants.
Right. And
smoking
so
a lot of cigarettes.
like I think it was the last year that he was with the Cowboys. He's walking down the hallway at the ranch, and he's all bent over his shoulder. And I was like, Dick, I said, what's the deal with that shoulder? He goes, I'll tell you what the deal is. So he tells me the story that they're playing at Cleveland, and he injures his shoulder right during the game, goes to the locker room, and the doctor, back then they didn't bring their own doctors to the game. They rented a doctor at that spot. They gave the guy, his pay was 2 tickets to the game. They sat in the stands. And if you needed them, they were supposed to come down, right? Well, the guy they had there said, hey, I'm watching the game. I'll be down there at halftime. So he's in the locker room writhing in pain, and the doctor shows up at halftime. Right?
Clearly a Browns fan.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. It's like, no, we're not going to help them out, you know? And he goes, that's why my shoulder's screwed up, you know? He was a piece of work, man.
And I remember Mike being around.
He was been around, right?
Right?
He'd have been growing up around the Cowboys. And the reason Dick came back to the Cowboys is when he was the head coach at San Francisco, if you remember, I think it was 2 years in a row the Cowboys eliminated him from the playoffs, early 70s, right? And they fired him. So the Cowboys were responsible for him coming back to the Cowboys.
You know what's so funny? That was in 71, 72?
I believe so, those 2 years.
That was my first Cowboys game.
When they played the Niners?
And
to go to the stadium to watch it?
Washington returned the kickoff, the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Vic Washington. That was the first Cowboy game, really the only Cowboy game I ever attended until I played.
Really?
And it's funny that you mentioned that game. Wow, I didn't realize that Dick Nolan was the head coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And then one of those games was the famous game where Staubach had the comeback in the last 2 minutes.
That was
the 30-28 win.
Was that Cotton Bowl?
No, that was on the road.
That was on the road. Okay, that was there.
Yeah.
They won turf. That's when they had turf out there, right? In San Francisco.
Might have been at Kezar Stadium.
I think it was.
I just remember the offensive linemen rolling all on the ground like they were crazy. I think it was Larry Cole celebrating.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I believe
that's exactly right. But Mike McCarthy, it's interesting when the tie that Mike McCarthy has with the Jason Garrett era and going back to the Wade Phillips era. He 7-3 in his career against Dallas. His first 2 times he coached against the Cowboys in 07 and 08. They were losses for Green Bay, and he's 7-1 since the 2010 season. And of course, in that 2010 season, Wade Phillips' last game as Cowboys head coach was the 45-7 loss at Green Bay, and Jason Garrett became the coach. Then you then fast forward 8 games, and in fact, it was 9 years ago yesterday that Jason Garrett was announced as the head coach of the Cowboys after serving as the interim head coach. And this month is also when Mike McCarthy and the Packers went on their 4-game roll to win the Super Bowl at AT&T Stadium.
It's crazy. 2 crazy playoff losses. You think, did Dez catch it? Do you think that was a question in the interview?
And that's the other part of it, 2014 and 16. All right.
Give him your tweet.
All right, when you look,
because I stole it, so go. And I gave you credit, by the way.
When you look at Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy, okay, since 2014, okay, Garrett's record as head coach of the Cowboys 56-40 during that time, and McCarthy, of course, being let go with 4 games left in the 2018 season, didn't coach as many games. At 43-32-1 was his record. So Garrett with a better regular season record. The difference. In the postseason, McCarthy has a 4-3 record since 2014. Garrett's record is 2-3. Turn around the 2 playoff wins that Green Bay had against Dallas, the Dez catch game in 2014, the Rodgers to Jared Cook, Mason Crosby 51-yard field goal to win the game in 2016, and Jason Garrett might still be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Still mad about that.
No, he would be.
It would be.
Absolutely.
Because the Cowboys would have gone to 2
great comeback, 18-point
comeback
comeback in that game. 18-point comeback.
Yeah,
I wrote that this morning. There's a lot of woulda, coulda with his tenure here. I mean, if Romo hadn't gotten hurt in 2015, if Romo hadn't gotten hurt before the season finale in 2013 with the division on the line, there's a lot. But that's the NFL. It's a fine line. You're seeing it in these playoffs. There's not much difference between these teams.
When it's all said and done, you still ended up with one of the most talented teams you could have in the NFL. So we can lament about Romo. Well, you got Dak. You can lament about, we had DeMarco Murray. Well, now you got Zeke.
Yep.
You can lament about all that. Now we have this great offensive line.
Yep.
So all of that just led us to where we are. Well, I feel like I'm in the Game of Thrones episode here. I'm Bran the Broken or something. I mean, because you are where you are right now. So all of that stuff was meant for you to be right here, right now. You had your chance. You blew it. Both you out.
And so
ultimately, it's your judge off your wins and losses.
It's appropriate to quote Dandy Don Meredith then. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
Exactly. That's right.
And more Talking Cowboys in just a moment.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
Ready? Okay. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. What's that spell?
So.
Are we gonna win?
Not if we play like we cheered.
Just okay is not okay. Whether it's cheerleaders or your wireless network, AT&T is America's best wireless network. Best network based on GWS One score September 2019.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Do you want the most interesting, up-to-the-minute Dallas Cowboys news straight from the Star in Frisco? How about exclusive and on command? That's right, news and nuggets you can't find anywhere else. With our exclusive Cowboys content on Alexa, you can have all the answers, secrets, stories, and more. What's Stephen Jones thinking during a game? What's Joe Looney's favorite pregame meal? We take your questions to Cowboys players and coaches, and you can hear the answers directly back to you. Just say, Alexa, open Dallas Cowboys.
I'm Jay Novacek, former tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Back in the day, I was the guy who always got the tough yards, and that's why I run with John Deere today. In fact, I have a John Deere 3025E tractor that can handle any yard work I need to do, even the tough yards way out back. So if you have 1 acre or 1,000, John Deere has the equipment that's just right for you. Visit a John Deere dealer today and run with us. We are the official tractor provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Talkin Cowboys continues inside the SWBC Mortgage Studios here at the Star in Frisco, Texas. And again, Mickey has speculated that we might have a press conference tomorrow to announce the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. We're talking about what's gone on here in the last week and how it quickly came together over the weekend as reportedly Mike McCarthy, your new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And it's interesting as he's putting the staff together. We've talked about Mike Nolan as a defensive coordinator. Reports this morning about Kellen Moore, that McCarthy is interested in keeping Kellen Moore on his staff. But Kellen apparently has an opportunity perhaps at the University of Washington where and so we'll see what happens with Kellen Moore.
What would you do? Would
as an offensive coordinator at
offensive coordinator and
I
play
would stick around and be
NFL?
Under somebody like Coach McCarthy. To me, that would be an opportunity I would not pass up. I'm already in the pro game. I'm already with the Dallas Cowboys. To me, it wouldn't even be a lateral step going to UW. I would imagine, of course, a head coaching job in college is more amazing now than it ever was. But if I'm already with the Cowboys, here we are. We have a chance to, first of all, redeem myself from last year. And I do it with a coach with that much experience, someone I could learn from.
And even with if the head coach is calling plays.
Yeah, of course. I want him to call plays because I can learn from him. I can see the mistakes that I made, and clearly there were some.
And I think with Kellen, it also kind of depends on where he wants to go in his career. Does he see himself down the road as a college coach or an NFL coach? It really doesn't matter that much. But if he wanted to make some inroads along those lines, maybe. But even if he wants to be a college coach someday, he will benefit from learning, as you say, from a guy like Mike McCarthy.
A young guy, I don't really see a young guy going from being a professional coach and then transferring to college. Usually it's an older coach who's about to get out of the league. Hey, I can do this college game because, mentally it's a little bit light on the load, but also you have experience you can impart on your younger players. I don't really see a younger coach going from pros as an OC and then saying my future is in college. Once I'm bit by this bug and the professional bug, this is what I want to stay with. That's just my opinion.
And you don't have to recruit, right?
Man, come on.
But now in Washington, he'll obviously be the guy calling plays.
Right.
That'll be his job. Here, even if they leave him as offensive coordinator, he's going to be doing all the legwork for Mike McCarthy, who's overseeing everything.
And that's how you learn.
And that's how you learn. And that gives him an opportunity to see how another coach does things. And
still around all this talent on his team.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. And have some input. I would imagine, he's going to pick his brain if he's here.
Of course he is.
Right?
Yes.
You've been here. You know the talent. And you study it together, and he could learn a heck of a lot. But again, I guess it's what your kind of priority is going forward. Do you want to be a college coach? Well, if you're an OC and you're successful there, then you get an opportunity to get a college job for sure.
And Jon Kitna, what do you anticipate might be happening there?
I would think you keep him as the quarterback coach. I'd keep him. I think he worked really well with the quarterbacks. And I think you can't wipe out the whole staff. You need to keep some holdover guys, and those guys would not be a threat to me. I remember Jimmy Johnson talking about when he went to Miami and he was only allowed to bring like one guy with him. I think it was Butch Davis, and there was a lot of backstabbing going on that staff because there were guys on that staff that thought they should have been the head coach of the University of Miami, and it was a bad situation. And I remember Jimmy saying, he goes, I realized I made a mistake and I would never make that mistake again because when he came to the Cowboys, it's like I'm bringing my guys with me. But that was a different situation, right? That was a team that needed to be rebuilt. And I remember, Everson remembers the college Joes, right? What do they know about the NFL?
Well, at 1-15, everyone thought, see, I told you.
We told you.
But then each year, they got better and better. I remember coming here in 1990. I was with the Giants, and we were on the road. We came through, and I couldn't wait for payback and all that kind of crap. And I remember after the game, we won the game. And after the game, LT sitting on the bench, and he looked tired. And, Texas Heat, that's what I thought it was. I said, hey, boy, you all right? He goes, hey, man, those guys are pretty good. And that was year 2. That was year 2. He said, man, those guys are pretty good. And when he said that, he knew that team had the potential to go to the Super Bowl. I'd never seen him look like that after a game.
And if I remember, that game was in the middle of that 3-game. They had a 3-game losing streak, I think. And I think that got them to like 4-7 or 3-7, and then they won 4 straight to get to 7-7.
And an update on Jason Garrett. Reports came out this morning that the Giants were requesting permission to talk with Garrett.
Why do they have to request permission?
Well, it's not the 14th yet.
Yeah, that's right. He's under contract.
It's still not the 14th.
That's right.
Maybe Mike McCarthy
is official right now.
And initially, when those reports came out, it was assumed that it was for the head coaching position. And immediately on the heels of that, it came out that Joe Judge is being hired as the head coach, and the clarification is that they are talking with Jason Garrett about the offensive coordinator
Joe Judge,
position.
Wide receiver coach.
And special teams.
And special teams.
Yeah.
And he is being interviewed for the head coaching job.
No, he's going to get it. He is the head coach.
So we're finalizing our details here. Is that what we're saying?
So what do you think the reaction is in the New York Daily News? Exactly.
Why?
I called it up right away because it's Joe Judge. No one knows the name.
38 years
right?
old.
It's New York. Everson knows.
This is crazy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's also typical New York. The reaction is of course, New York.
Yeah.
But no, the decision is typical New York Giants right now. They don't know what they're doing. I'm just sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I know Judge. I'm sure he's a great guy, but he must be a heck of a wide receiver coach.
Hey,
golly, dude.
John Harbaugh was a special teams guy, and look what he's doing in Baltimore.
And looking at Joe Judge's resume,
you never
to
know.
clarify, he is 38 years old.
He's worked for some good head coaches.
Went to Mississippi State. He was a graduate assistant at Mississippi State, then a linebackers coach at Birmingham Southern. Then he was under Nick Saban at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
You're familiar with that coach?
Of course. Cleveland, D.C.
And he was a special teams assistant under Saban, 2009 to 2011. He became a special teams assistant with New England, 2012 through 14. Became the special teams coordinator 2015 through 18. In fact, he's been the special teams coordinator ever since then, the last 5 years, and just became and just added the title wide receivers coach this season. So he was not only the special teams coordinator, but also the wide receivers coach.
So when they lost all those wide receivers in New England this year, and they lost a bunch of them, they said, "Okay, you're now the wide receivers coach."
That's
right.
I'm
surprised he wasn't a wide receiver for them. I mean, I don't understand.
Right? Which explains why at the end of that Patriots game the other night, Julian Edelman was back there supposed to be the punt return guy, and then someone on the sideline, I don't know if it was Joe Judge, told him to go cover the gunner over here because we're trying to block this punt. Right. And then, don't you know, Bill Parcells was yelling at the TV when they get the punt away, and there's no return man to either field the punt or just for the yardage or for the time on the clock, and it rolls down to the 1 yard line.
But remember, he was the mastermind of not putting a guy back against the Cowboys.
Exactly.
And then the Cowboys had to call timeout. It's like, what the hell's going on? He was also the mastermind of putting Matthew Slater over Joe Thomas, who hadn't practiced all week, and he beat him and blocked the punt that beat the Cowboys.
Are you giving Bill Belichick or Joe Judge credit?
Joe Judge.
Oh, okay. Stop, Nick. Man, come on, Nick. Stop.
It's the Pats pipeline.
Man.
It's the Judge. As long as Belichick's there, they're going to get assistants.
Let's hope every game is like the weather was in New England for every time.
But can you imagine the criticism that Jason Garrett and Keith O'Quinn would have got on the television broadcast if they didn't have a punt return guy back for that punt?
Can't have enough judges in New York.
That's a mixed shot for you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yes, it is.
All right. What other aspects of the Mike McCarthy hire intrigue you?
Impending hire.
Oh,
yes.
Right. Yes.
Would intrigue you.
Reportedly.
I mean, obviously, the dynamics between he and Dak Prescott, they're going to have to be strong. I would be very excited to see what he really feels about working with a young quarterback like this all over again. He and Aaron Rodgers, at the end, you said he got fired, not midseason, but late season.
Yeah, four games left.
to go.
Yeah,
Four games
surprising
to go.
fire at the timing.
Surprising fire.
The timing of it was.
So I'm sure trying to deal with another prima donna is not on his list as far as dealing with quarterbacks. So I think he'll have a pleasant experience dealing with an eager Dak Prescott. If I'm Dak, I'm like, man, this guy, he coached Aaron Rodgers,
Brett Favre,
won a Super Bowl, Brett Favre. I'd be sitting up here on a perch waiting on him to come into the locker room.
Ought to be at the press conference, right?
Right. And they had Favre has a Sirius XM radio show, and he was talking about how McCarthy would adapt his style to the quarterback. He did that with Montana. I mean, he wasn't in a position of directly really coaching.
He was on the staff.
He was on the staff, but then working with Favre and Rodgers, knowing what those guys liked and tailoring it to their strengths. And so he thinks it's a good fit, reportedly, for McCarthy to come in here and do that. But the other thing to me is if this indeed gets official, what happens with the offensive staff and the dynamics there? Because I know they like Kellen Moore here, but McCarthy's basically run the offense in Green Bay short of maybe one season or part of one season. So how would that work out?
Well, you're just talking 1 year of Kellen Moore being OC.
Right.
To me, the adjustment shouldn't be that difficult. I mean, that was something new. The adjustment was this past year. To me, I think I would feel a bit of a comfort zone. Kellen might be a little bit more ambitious than me. He might think, his toes are getting stepped on. I don't know. But if I'm Kellen, I'm thinking, this is a chance for me to have a cushion. I have a coach here that can really bail me out if I'm in a particular situation I can't get out of. And as a matter of fact, I would love to put the training wheels back on Kellen Moore right now and let McCarthy take over. And I'm going to be in the passenger seat trying to learn all I can. To me, it's just an opportunity for the young people here on this staff, and we have a bunch of young people. It's a chance for the young people that he keeps on this staff to get better at what they're doing because, of course, last year we saw so much chaos. Now you're going to see a different way of preparing for a football game that just might enhance your ability as a coach and make you more valuable to your team.
Yeah, and you know what? And I don't know. I mean, it'll be different than if McCarthy's call and play, but he didn't have carte blanche effect on this offense, right? Jason Garrett was still kind of over what was going on.
Are you sure?
During the week, I
never saw him say a word on the sideline.
He said quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Not just in anger.
No, yeah, right. What are you doing?
Right, none of that.
Yeah, and I know there was some suggestions along the way. So, but now, yeah, we talked about it already, Rob. We were just kind of pointing out, when you're the head coach, it's hard to do all the coordinator stuff, the leg work during the week, putting the script together for practice and putting the game plan on paper, and then you kind of turn it over. That's what Parcells did here, right? He had all these guys that were doing the legwork during the week, and then he called the plays.
You got certain coaches that are clipboard coaches. Jason Garrett was not a clipboard coach.
Right.
McCarthy is, if I'm not mistaken.
See, McCarthy, I was looking at.
He'll carry the little board with him, right?
All right, McCarthy's staff at the Packers in 2018, he had a pass game coordinator, quarterbacks coach, run game coordinator as well.
Sounds like Bill.
Yeah, and he was the one calling plays. All right, we've got to get to Mickey's Read coming up next here on Talkin Cowboys.
2020.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys and your favorite football team. Get yours today in the Stadium Pro Shop or at Stetson.com.
Okay, give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. Give me an S. S. Give me an O. O. What's that spell?
So.
Are we gonna win?
Not if we play like we cheered.
Just okay is not okay. Whether it's cheerleaders or your wireless network, AT&T is America's best wireless network. Best network based on GWS One score, September 2019.
Essilor is a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, helping fans see more and do more with our best vision solutions. Our lens technologies reveal a world more beautiful than you can imagine. For a limited time, get the Essilor Next Gen offer. When you buy the latest generation of Transitions lenses with select Essilor lenses, you can choose a second pair of clear lenses for free with qualifying frame purchases. Restrictions apply. Find a participating eye care professional by visiting EssilorUSA.com. Essilor. See more, do more.
So, you're shopping, and that's when you see it. Aisle 23. Dr. Pepper stacked from top to bottom as far as the eye can see. The phrase too good to be true comes to mind, yet there it is. A rich, delicious Dr. Pepper paradise. Wait, did that can of Dr. Pepper just open itself for you? They all are. As if to say, so nice to treat you. And even though it feels weird to talk to a can, you pick one up and say, it's so nice to be treated. Dr. Pepper, so nice to treat you.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
So now that the 2019 season is over, we're back working out, right? On a regular basis.
Close to it, yeah.
Getting your workouts in. Well, this year, you can work out cooler if you go to getjackblack.com. With your $65 purchase, that will include this free cool combo, Charcoal Body Bar Massaging Soap and Cool Moisture Body Lotion. Just use the code COOL, and the offer
what exists?
It exists until midnight tonight.
Midnight tonight.
I
So
think they
get
just
to
come up with
getjackblack.com.
words just to make him spit on the microphone. I think that's how they chop. What was that?
I did some copywriting before I came back to the Cowboys. I never used the word exist in an offer. That's good.
It exists.
I like it.
Today is the 7th, right?
Yes, because I have to pay a bill today.
11:59 tonight to get
you got to put that important bill in there. Yeah. Got to pay my car insurance.
All right.
Me too.
Yeah, today is the day.
Any other
What?
Any other aspect of the potential hiring of Mike McCarthy?
Tomorrow can't get here soon enough.
Yes, intrigue you? I've got something if you don't.
All right, well, set yourself up.
I just want to quickly worry about what's going to happen defensively.
Yeah,
to me, that's what I'm worried about.
I mean, you're talking about hiring a coordinator, but okay, what about linebacker, secondary?
And how did he do it in Green Bay? You know, what was his style in Green Bay? What was it? Who was his coordinator?
Dom Capers
in
for
Green
a long
Bay?
time. Right. They ran a 3-4 with Dom Capers, and they're going to run a 4-3 with Mike Nolan.
And Dom Capers used to be head coach of Carolina, right?
Yep.
Right.
Nolan's done both, though, right? He's run 3-4 and 4-3.
Yes, he was back with the Ravens back in the early aughts.
Yeah.
02 to 04.
And if you run a 3-4, you're in a lot of nickels, so there's a lot of four-man line and
there's
and
a lot
all
of
that.
hybrid stuff.
A lot of hybrid stuff. Look at the Patriots, what they do.
Mm-hmm. I recall they played a lot of man-to-man in Green Bay. That I do recall.
But they don't have 3-4 personnel.
The Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't have the big defensive ends that play the 3 up front.
I think Tyrone Crawford could be a defensive end in that scheme if he's healthy.
And he needs to get heavier, though.
Yeah. Because he slimmed down last year.
Yeah. And he has to be healthy. Mm-hmm. And they don't have enough linebackers for 4-3. I mean, what if
right now they just have 2 linebackers?
Does Nolan? What does Nolan play? What does Nolan coach?
He's 4-3.
They did usually.
Yeah.
And he was the linebacker coach. I mean, I guess you could be the coordinator linebacker coach, double up. And then you would need to see what you're going to do with the secondary and what you're doing on the defensive line. And there's, guys that have been here for a while. Does he keep Leon Lett? Does he keep Andre Gerard, who, by the way, had knee surgery, got injured at practice the last week of the season?
Really?
Rolled up on.
God.
I didn't see him on the injury report.
Yeah.
But Everson's right. It's every level of the defense, they got question marks with personnel, regardless of what scheme you're going to play.
All the free agents.
It's unbelievable. It's not unbelievable, but it's a lot of questions. And Robert Quinn leaves. What's your top draft need? Is it to go get an edge rusher?
Man.
Is it or a stand-up outside? Whatever they're going to do. Byron
Malik
Jones
Collins is a
Malik
free
Collins.
agent. They took care of that with Tristan Hill last year, right?
You need not only not yet. You need not only depth at linebacker, but
linebacker.
insurance.
I believe the only linebackers that are not free agents are Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch.
Right.
And then in the secondary, Byron Jones is a free agent. Jeff Heath is a free agent. C.J. Goodwin's a free agent. Who am I missing?
I think Darian Thompson might.
Darian Thompson's a free agent.
Every time I think of Jeff Heath, I think of Dick Nolan now. With the shoulders. You remember?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's the way Jeff's going to be looking in about 20 years.
Yeah, Malik Collins is a free agent.
So really, I mean, with as many questions as they have on the roster, it might be an opportune time to reshape the defense.
You're going to have to reshape the defense.
Michael
that is
Bennett.
no-brainer.
He's a free agent.
Yep. Oh, I got clarity on that, by the way. He's Bennett. He's put him in the unrestricted category.
Okay.
Bennett.
When March comes, he's in that group. It's not right now.
Right.
But yeah, his time's up, and I mean, who knows? He's 34. What does he want to do? You know, does he want to keep playing, or
does he want to stay close to home? I always talk about that. He's from East Texas.
Yeah.
He's sort of been a rental player here in the last several years of his career.
Right.
You know, he may not catch on with the team until late in the, get closer to training camp.
And all that.
Those guys can make a difference.
At that age.
Those guys can make
because
a difference.
after Seattle, what did he go? Philadelphia,
then New England for 6 games, and then here. Yeah. So, and by the way, Kyle Yeomans informs me that when Mike Nolan was most recently a defensive coordinator at Atlanta, it was a 4-3 defense, of course. So.
Okay. Mick's right. I mean, I think that what they have, that makes the most sense. But you got to figure this out. They got a lot of hard decisions to make on that.
I don't recall Mike Nolan being a great DC at all. I don't remember
He's been a lot of different places.
Yeah, and I don't recall them. You're talking Atlanta. I don't recall them being that effective.
I'm guessing that's why he got the head coaching job, but that was
he was
quite a while
at the Ravens in 2002 through 2004.
Okay.
And I'm about to look them up. Along the other lines that I want to bring up about coaching is when you look at, the Cowboys. This is since 2014. The Cowboys have the 8th best record in the National Football League, and of course, just one coach during that time. The top 12 teams, regular season records in the National Football League since 2014. New England obviously has the most wins. Number 2, Kansas City. 3, Seattle. 4, Pittsburgh. 5, Green Bay, with Mike McCarthy primarily during that time. 6, New Orleans. 7, Minnesota. 8, Dallas. 9, Baltimore. 10, Philadelphia. 11, Houston. And 12, Carolina. All right? Those 12 teams, what is the common denominator there? They basically have had one head coach.
I was going to say the head coaches all have the tenure.
Wow. In fact, there's only 2 of those 12 teams that have had multiple head coaches since 2014, and that would be Green Bay. McCarthy was there until 4 games left in the 2018 season, so then 1 year of Matt LaFleur. And then Philadelphia had Chip Kelly in 14 and 15, and then Doug Peterson took over in 2016. Mm-hmm. All right, the bottom 20 teams record-wise, since 2014, 20 teams have gone through 52 head coaches.
Bill, do you have anything else to do at night?
52 head coaches for 20 teams over 6 seasons, and the top 12 have gone through 14 head coaches.
So of those
there's
top
something to
12,
be said for continuity in the National Football League.
Jerry has always said that.
And how many of those top 12 now have retained their same coach?
Well, and then now Carolina
Carolina Cowboys.
just changed. Dallas just changed. Green Bay a year ago, and that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, what did you do for me now?
Mm-hmm. The bottom line is, regular season doesn't mean crap if you can't win in the playoffs.
Well, and most of those teams,
what that means.
Most of those
if you
teams,
look at the playoff record of those teams, I'm sure it's going to switch a little bit.
Well, actually,
even if you look at some teams on there, let's say the Ravens themselves.
Here we go. I got the playoff record. Since 2014.
I did not think you had that.
Since 2014, New England 12-3 in the playoffs with 3 Super Bowl wins. Okay, Kansas City 2-4 in the playoffs. Okay, Andy Reid.
That's why Andy Reid gets criticized in the playoffs.
Seattle, Pete Carroll 4-4 in the playoffs since 2014 with a Super Bowl loss. Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, 3-4 in the playoffs. Green Bay, Mike McCarthy, he is 4-3 with 2 wins over the Cowboys. Otherwise, he'd be 2-3, like Jason Garrett.
He should be.
New Orleans, Sean Payton, 2-4 in the playoffs now.
Well, we blame the refs for that, of course.
Since 2014. Yeah. Minnesota, Mike Zimmer is now 3-2 in the playoffs.
Nice.
Okay. Dallas, 2-3 with Garrett. Baltimore, Harbaugh, 1-2 in the playoffs since 2014. Then you had Philadelphia, of course, won it. 4-2 is Doug Peterson, now 4-3 with the loss this week. Houston, O'Brien is, I had him down as 2-3. I'm not sure if I updated it after the playoff win that would put him at 3-3. And then Ron Rivera, 3-3.
Interesting.
Now, but the bottom 20, there's not very much in the way of playoffs.
So there's not much of a discrepancy between the successful Super Bowl runs versus little old us down here in Dallas.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's such a fine line between winning and losing in this league.
So much. But I said this on our podcast yesterday. The difference and why ultimately one reason why they've made the change, I'm sure, is they've been on this roller coaster of make the playoffs, miss the playoffs throughout Jason Garrett's tenure here. And you look at teams like Baltimore and then the NFC, Philly and New Orleans the last 3 years, Seattle. I'm trying to – who else makes it? Saints. They give themselves chances in the tournament over and over again.
Right,
and that's what they're trying to do. Super Bowl, how many – all these teams that we're talking about have won one.
Yes.
Right.
But it's hard to do. But trying to give yourself chance after chance, that's what they're trying to do here.
Here's the difference between these teams and Jason Garrett. Prior to 2014, those coaches won Super Bowls.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
And he went 8.
Now, Andy Reid hasn't, right? Because he was at Philadelphia before. Okay.
Kansas City's another one, though.
Pete Carroll has. Mike Tomlin has. Mike McCarthy has. Sean Payton has. John Harbaugh, who is just 1-2 since 2014, has won a Super Bowl, though. Doug Peterson has.
What about Jim Harbaugh?
And he lost to his brother in the Super Bowl.
And every year he's got to deal with the New England Patriots.
And a bunch of those Super Bowl wins are 10 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But the difference
Mike
is,
Tomlin in 2008.
here's the difference. These are the Dallas Cowboys.
That's it. That is the only difference. You're so right, Mick.
That's where the focus is nationally. That's where the focus is. And
the word is expectations.
And
that's the key word.
And some of what Jason Garrett had to pay for has been 25 years old. It's not his fault that they hadn't been back to a Super Bowl since '95. There's been a lot of coaches. A lot of coaches had a hand in that, right? How many? Switzer, Chan Gailey, Campo, Bill, and Wade. That's 5. Did I forget anybody? You got everybody since then?
But when they hired Jason Garrett, it was a promise. That was the promise from Jerry Jones that this is the change that we're going to make. This is the guy. He's our typical Dallas Cowboy. We always like being hired from within because he was a quarterback for the Cowboys. So the expectation there early on was that this is my guy right here. All the other guys, we got these problems. You know, the coaches didn't like Bill Parcells. Chan Gailey didn't have the talent. No. Jason Garrett's going to come in here. He knows this team. He knows this organization. We know him. And there was a safety zone that we had created to where the expectation was going to be, we're going to get to the Super Bowl with this guy. We're going to get it.
And they handed him a 1-17.
Yeah, and they did spend the earlier part of his tenure rebuilding the offensive line and all that. But you do look at the end of this tenure, and they still – the last time they made back-to-back postseason appearances was 2007. You know, it's been a long time, and
this is the only year they didn't have an excuse. There were excuses prior to that.
And I agree with you. Like I said, he's been unlucky in a lot of ways. But Mike McCarthy has had Aaron Rodgers break his collarbone too.
And where did they go? They had a losing record. And didn't go to the playoffs.
Mick, we can nitpick every team that doesn't have things go their way every year.
No, but I'm saying you mentioned McCarthy, and I'm saying there was he had a losing season. Jason had this thing on a roll. They had, 3 consecutive winning seasons? this was the one. It's like I said, what did you do for me now?
Sure.
Expectations.
Yeah. Right.
Because of expectations.
Right.
Period.
Absolutely.
No one else's expectations are as lofty as the Cowboys are every year. And this year was even more special because we put the money out there.
I mean, think about when McCarthy didn't go to the playoffs in 2017 when Aaron Rodgers got hurt. Who was the quarterback? Some guy named Hundley?
Brett Hundley.
UCLA.
Okay, so when the Cowboys missed in 2015 with
call,
Romo
Rob.
hurt, who were the quarterbacks, right? Castle? Seriously?
Matt Castle.
They should have stuck with Whedon.
Oh, boy, you bring up those names. That was a horrible year.
Right.
Such a horrible year.
They went 4-12 for a reason.
I almost put that out of my mind. I almost put that out of my mind after Dak.
Okay, on that note, we move on.
We do.
Okay, we're going to have a press conference.
We'll see what tomorrow
sometime
brings.
in the very near future, and
We
we'll
hope.
talk at you next week here on Talkin Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?